You know what's even cooler than AI Query standalone? AI Query utilized in conjunction with Sysmon to enrich both tool sets. Super powerful, super pumped to talk about it. Let's hop in the tech and show you exactly how. All right, so super cool, potentially wildly powerful use case I want to share with you all today at a very high level, but effectively it's utilizing Sysmon in conjunction with AI Query. So if you're not familiar, Sysmon or sysinternals effectively allows you to dictate rules to gather information on Windows machines and write that to a Windows event log. Can be wildly powerful for security and just general monitoring from an IT capacity. First, you have to actually identify a rule set once you install Sysmon, which I have on this machine. And in case you were wondering which rule set I'm using, after some Reddit threads and light Googling, I went with Swift on security as a good baseline. And as you can see, you can actually add in any rules. There's a modular version, but I just use the very default vanilla sysmon export config.xml. And again, you can always customize for your own needs or use cases. But with that said, knowing that this is what I utilize in the first place, installed it, maybe an hour or so ago. And again, it's writing to the Windows event log, which if you've been following the channel and you've seen prior videos, we can actually gather Windows event log information with AI query. And that's exactly what we're going to do, but for Sysmon data. So what we'll do here is we'll specify the Windows event log mode within QuerySmith and say gather sysmon file creation events. So effectively, I say FIM light because unlike Tripwire, it's not gathering everything, right? It's not gathering what actual changes occurred when you're editing a file, but files with a specific extension or in set locations that you define based on your rule sets will be gathered. So effectively, the file creation, and then if you were to edit that file, it'll create another file creation event. So that's what we want to look for here. And what we'll do is we'll hit generate with AI and give it just a moment. All right, and here we go. We have a high confidence score. So let's see what AI has generated for us here. And we can see, okay, perfect. This is exactly what we're looking for. So we're seeing the actual right here, the operational channel, right? So Windows, Microsoft Sysmon operational and an event ID of 11, which is the file creation events themselves. So that's perfect. And then we're actually seeing also that it's going ahead and extracting out that log. So it becomes much more easily able to be viewed. And we can see it's doing JSON extract data and then over the event data, walking that JSON structure and then getting to target file name so it becomes its own field. So it's easily searchable, filterable, etc. So this looks great. What I'll do is I'll hit accept. And then what we can see here is we have the query. So let's go on ahead and execute it on our device. And we should get results here momentarily. But I guess we have results instantly, so my pontificating will have to wait because as we check out the actual data, what we can see is the event date time right here. We actually have 44 total results. I'm going to flip that just so that I can show you the ones that I intentionally created myself. And then we can see here we have the image itself, so the actual process that is making these changes, as well as the target name of the file that is being edited, when that occurred, and by whom, the user attribution. So you can see this first event was actually me creating the sysmon file create test.ps1. The second event was me editing it within Notepad. And then we can see here this third event was me editing it within PowerShell. So even though these are file create events, this is the same file that I keep editing, and that's why you're actually seeing each event in line. Again, not the same thing as FIM from a tripwire, we're seeing the details, but that's really where it comes to the next piece, which is really cool. So in general, AI query, OS query in general, is great at point in time information, getting a snapshot of your environment, super helpful for things like configurations and just a whole litany of use cases I've gone through prior. Sysmon, by contrast, is very kind of continuous process centric, where it's gathering what's actually happening in the environment and writing it out to a log. So the reason the two work so well in tandem is because AI query can harvest that log where needed across multiple devices in one centralized location and actually parse out each of the fields for you and allowing you to get that consistent process centric visibility, but at the point in time when you actually need it. And that's what we're seeing here. So, one other really cool use case is that now that you have this information about what was happening on the device, you can correlate it with existing OS query tables to get more information about what was going on. So I actually already went ahead and did that. If we check out query packs, we can go over to custom and we can look at Sysmon info and helpers. So this is the FIM query we just wrote, right? And then what I can do is I can combine it with the NTFS ACL permissions table to say, hey, of all of those files that were edited, right? What were the actual associated permissions of those files? Who had the right to edit those files? So we can see, okay, maybe that's a bit odd. Maybe we need to remove the permissions from that user to not be able to edit that file if it has PHI or something of that nature. And then we can even keep going down that list. Sysmon can track registry edits. So go ahead, track registry edits, and then what we can do is we can correlate that with additional registry table queries for more information. Or Sysmon is also tracking process creation events under log event ID of 1. So this is the process creation event. By contrast, the way OS queries table of processes work is effectively giving a snapshot into the currently running processes on the device. So this is actually tracking every process creation, and this is tracking which processes are currently running on the device. So what if we combine the two and say, okay, we now have this log entry. Let's look at which processes are currently running on the device that we saw within this process creation tracking. So again, very simple, very rudimentary examples, and I actually can show you a couple of them, but more just want to showcase the basic concept of how you can utilize this consistent gathering of data from Sysmon and writing it out to a log to then enrich it within AI query, whether it's from just filtering and gathering as needed, or whether it's cross-referencing other tables. So for instance, if we're looking at the actual process creation tracking, here's the raw process creation tracking. We see 77 results. And we see information about the process itself, file version, all that fun stuff, user attribution, what have you. And then if we go back, oops, I went too far back. What we can do is we can actually look at right here, the Sysmon process create. So we can actually see of those 77, only 7 are still actively running on that device. And we can see exactly what those are if we wanted to. So again, just kind of cool the way you can use those two in tandem. But what we also mentioned was the FIM, right? So we showed those file events that I was making. I was making them as administrator. And then right here, we can actually see the files themselves. And we can see that the principal owner, administrator, has these specific rights so that I, as a user, was allowed to make those changes. And anybody in the administrators group would also be allowed to make such changes to that file. Now we can decide, okay, do we need to restrict these permissions, least privilege, all that fun stuff, or is this okay? But either way, you have the insights to make that determination. And then same goes with registry edits, really minor, but I went ahead and right here, we can see the image path. So what created the actual registry edit, and it was PowerShell. And then what I did is I went ahead and I created a key called Nick was here, and then I changed it a little bit to do was here with a Z, and then make a sub key of cool where the details are true, because come on. And what's nice is we also have the user attribution for who made those alterations. So just a lot of really powerful things you can do with AI query and Sysmon in tandem. Again, I know I'm just scratching the surface, but if you have any cool thoughts, use cases, ideas, or rules that I can put in to actually test this out, please let me know. But thought it was a cool and powerful enough use case that I wanted to share it with you all. So that's pretty much all I had. Check out our videos on YouTube and LinkedIn. And until next time, everybody, see ya.